Good evening, Cheeseheads, and well, what a shower of, I'm not going to swear, but what a shower that was. Just, where do we even start, Gibbo?
Mate, there's gonna be a few rants tonight, mate, because it's just turgid to watch. You know, suffer ball, as I heard it called. I love that, but it's just a really hard watch, and we just put ourselves in such bad positions, and then create very little. Really, it's just a hard watch, and we'll get into it in a minute. Move on to James, but crap, absolute crap.
James, it's only 20-7. Can you manage not to swear?
I can probably manage it for about 20 minutes, I think. Okay. Granted, I've been up since 6, so in the morning.
6 p.m?
No, a.m.
AM.
What was I going to say? Yeah, it's just a horrendous performance. We were better than we were against United, so that's something, I suppose, but just too many individual errors again and again,
Yeah. And James, I just said to John before this, under Jose, we had that. We sort of played like we did now. We were top of the league, and then all of a sudden, complacency and mistakes and errors happen like by the same players as we're doing it then, weren't they? Do you know what I mean? It's like. Yeah. It's you sort of know who's going to do it, and just we'll get into it in a bit. But like, it's ridiculous mistakes, ridiculous.
Couldn't string a pass to you at points. I mean, under Jose, it was that us throwing away that West Ham lead, right?
Yeah.
I hope that United game isn't a catalyst for something similar. I mean, at very least, I think Conte is most definitely going to go into the next transfer window knowing exactly who needs to go, as will Paratici. So that's something, I suppose. Just too many horrific mistakes today. The lineup.
Let's start the lineup, James. What was your initial thoughts?
That's kind of what I thought it would be. Like I mean, I didn't necessarily think Sanchez would be in for Romero. I mean, when I predicted it on the last show, I didn't know about the Højbjerg injury. Presumably it's an injury, but yeah, I thought you'd go 3-5-2. If Kulusevski wasn't back, which he isn't, it's kind of the default, right? I mean, Perisic didn't do brilliantly against United, so it makes sense Sessegnon plays. Royal was back from the suspension, makes sense he plays. Yeah, it's kind of what I expected.
Yeah. Were you surprised at all by anyone in the starting lineup?
No. I mean, yeah, well, I wasn't expecting Skip, but Højbjerg was injured, right? So that's just the only other option, unless he fancies doing something weird and funky. But he can't really do that. Yeah, Sanchez, but Romero's out, I'm presuming, right?
But when you look at that, like Højbjerg, obviously I'm a Højbjerg fan. I don't think he'd have made a difference today. I looked at that team, and it should be perfectly capable of doing better than we did today. It's the I don't want to. I'm not. This isn't me having a go at Conte, but it's like the way we play, the way we start, the way we sort of, we play on the front foot for a bit, but we don't create anything. We sort of work. We look busy.
Well, we lost you, mate.
Am I back?
You dropped out. Yeah, you're back, mate.
Yeah. We just, it's a lack of creativity, and then this slow, turgid passing along the back. Give it back to Lloris. One of the goals boots it straight to one of their players. Weak defending, poor from the wing backs, as we know, and we're two down. It's just like you can just sort of see it happening, can't you, James? You're watching it, and you can telegraph what's going to happen.
We'll have the ball in midfield, and there'll be options forward, and it'll go back to Longley, and it'll go back to Sanchez, and that's not necessarily a problem in and of itself. But there's a teeny bit of pressure, and he's like, "Oh, better pass it back to Hugo. Better pass it back to Hugo."
Yeah, James, we had a throw-in our own corner flag in that first half, and within 3 passes, it was back at Hugo's feet.
Is Hugo the second coming of Xavi or something? Is that what the players have been told? I don't understand this obsession with just passing.
Bloke can't kick. We're giving him.
He can't pass. He's not bloody Allison or Edison, is he? He's not good on the ball. He's not.
I said in our chat group that Pope is. We compared Pope with Hugo because they're both top keepers, but with the ball at their feet, not great. But Pope did all right with the ball at his feet today, but probably because he wasn't pressured, was he?
He didn't have to do as much, did he?
No.
We're past knocking the ball around the back and giving it to Hugo, then drilling it into our wing backs chest high. We don't play it in front of them so they can run onto it. We're pinging it into them chest high, so they've got to control it and get it down, take a touch, then pass it, and then everyone's in. It is literally the way we are playing and what we are sort of being asked to do. And our players are not coping very well with it at the minute. And what I don't care what anybody says, at the minute, we are the Harry Kane team. Because without him, there is nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, personally, I was just going to say, James, obviously we can tell you're in Portsmouth because we had the police car then.
Yeah.
Pretty standard for Pompey. I thought Bentancur had a decent game. A couple of final passes didn't quite get right. I thought Emerson did okay. And I said to us in a half time, he was probably the bright spot, which was scary because he still can't cross for Toffee.
No. Well, it's an issue, isn't
was
it?
woeful, wasn't he?
John, we play with wing backs. John and James, we play, and people who are listening, we play with wing backs. They're integral to what we do. Perisic hasn't hit the heights what we thought we had. The rest of the ones we've seen, because we haven't really seen Spence, so we can't count him. What we get from them, it's just not enough. We get them into. We got into spaces today. We got them into positions today to deliver decent balls or make something happen, and it just does not happen. Nothing comes from there. It's just like you may as well have a tumbleweed go in those positions on the pitch. Woeful.
Can I just say, my highlight of the first half was Davinson Sanchez managing to nutmeg himself. That was just class beyond.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't laugh, but I was watching that when,
mate, if we don't laugh, we're going to cry. So
yeah, but it's just that complacency and like Conte looks at the bench, and we'll probably get onto it a bit more later. But we need a goal, and somebody who knows a lot more about tactics say, "Oh, this is why we done that." But we brought 2 defenders on. 2 defenders. I know we've got a few injuries, but we had all this crap before. Our
squad, isn't it?
We won the transfer window, didn't we? We had all that nonsense before the season started. We won the transfer window. What a load of crap.
Gill was on the bench. Do we think he could have done a worse job offensively than Doherty? If you're chasing a goal and you're 2-1 down with limited time left.
Arguably, he could have come on the left wing back. Perisic, again, he put a couple of balls in, but didn't do a lot, did he? He probably should have taken a couple of those corners. Rather than
He's starting to look like a 34-year-old man playing, doesn't he, at the minute?
It is worrying. Yeah.
You know, I'm not having a go, but he does look like... he does look like a 34-year-old man at the minute, doesn't he? We were told he was super fit and obviously he was playing for a different team in a different style, but he does look like a 34-year-old bloke playing in a tough position.
Let's start with our skipper because there's quite a lot of comments here. Captain Cockrell. I'm going to say it, but Hugo needs dropping and replacing him next window. Personally, we won't win trophies with him in goal. We go on about Emerson and players like that need replacing. You know, he's made some amazing. He made some great saves on Wednesday. If we didn't have him, we'd have lost 6-0. But if we had a keeper that could play with the ball at their feet, we may not have got into that position. The trouble is we've got defenders who are not confident with him at the ball, or it comes to that he plays it to them in a poor position.
He gives it,
and we're on the back foot, aren't we? And especially when you've got Sanchez playing.
Yeah, Sanchez.
He's also not confident.
But he's given the ball too much, isn't he? Please tell me. I've defended Dyer, and I think he has done really well. And he's come back from he was ill and lost the form, and that. And he's come back and he's been all right. But he gets the ball and he doesn't go anywhere with any purpose. He sort of walks up really slow. Everybody else gets back in position, and he ultimately ends up tapping it to someone and getting it back, and then giving it to Hugo or pinging it out wide. Is
that because there isn't an option for him a lot of the time? Because Newcastle knew all they had to do was mark the players.
Yeah,
and Sonny's not spinning him around behind, which did work. You know, a couple of times he got in the box once and didn't quite fall from him. I think Trippier got the header away.
Yeah,
but that's what we've got to do. You've got to stretch them with the pace you've got. Otherwise, they're going to compress the midfield and just press on us.
Sonny's the only pace we've got.
Yeah, but they weren't playing it enough. It was a couple of times we had long balls played out to the wing backs, but Sessington's got a bit of pace. Emerson's got no pace. Unless you play that move through for Son, or you can get it to Kane, you can hold it up. You're going to struggle, aren't you?
if you have three in midfield, you can have a guy drop in to be permanently just sat in front of the centre backs, right? Which they do a bit, but not nearly enough. So you've got to just tell one of whoever's playing in that three to basically stand in front of Dyer when we have the ball deep. So it doesn't go to Hugo, it goes to him. And then they either have multiple passing options at the back, or he can get the ball and either go forward or pass it forward and then move up. It's not complicated tactics. That's, tactics 101.
We play into that pivot. Sorry, John. We play into that pivot, don't we? But there's players at other teams who do that far better than we do. When it goes into the pivot, they turn, they move, and they move the ball quicker. Like I said, I like Højbjerg and I like Bentancur. But in those positions, we sort of get it and it comes into us and it's a wall pass straight back to whoever. There's no guile or so, do you know what I mean? And you haven't got the players out or around this guy. We don't do it very well. It's just turgid.
So let's discuss Edwards' comment. They went for Sanchez like sharks for blood, and he crumbled. I think Conte was outcoached this time. I have to say, it was clear. Whenever Dyer had the ball, they pretty much let him have it. Longley, pretty similar. But as soon as it went to Sanchez, Joe Linton was on him every single time. And he
just kept blocking
every team knows to do it. It goes back to that Europa Cup final between Man United and Ajax when Jose did exactly the same.
Yeah.
Teams now are all going to press us. No one won't press us. And because we can't play through this press, we're just going to struggle, unfortunately, unless we can find a different tactic. Now, maybe, I know he's much derided. I thought Lucas did all right, and he really tried today and tried to make it different. Maybe we will go back to 3-4-3. The thing we didn't want to do.
But we're just putting Troyers, aren't we? Fucking hell, mate. I mean, sorry, I shouldn't have said. Mate, I agree with you. I get exactly what you're saying. I agree with you. But we're just putting Troyers in there because the rest of them can't play well. And this sounds really awful to say, but that's me thinking like that is the thinking of a loser. Do you get what I mean? It's
yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing. I just read Legend 27's comment. I hope they all protest to stop Eric Dyer getting from the game on Wednesday.
I mean, I've stuck up for Dyer, but he needs. He's just
having a bad time.
And I'll tell you what else, mate. With him, he plays in that three, and it suits him. But players are getting onto him now. If he's marked, Milk turns quicker than him, mate. If he gets if he gets caught, he's knackered. If a player drops on him, they spin him. We need to be playing higher up the pitch and keeping up the ball so he can sort of sit and he doesn't have to mark anyone or really get involved in the play just to recycle it when it comes to the back. Because if you get him involved, mate, he just gets turned and people get beyond him.
Henry's saying we need a new goalkeeper and we need a Dyer upgrade in January. We're not going to get a new goalkeeper in January.
No. And Dyer won't be replaced.
No, we definitely do need another centre back because if we lose Romero, we're suddenly struggling. And Longley's lack of pace today was quite alarming. To say, I think that Davies would have been a better option, even though he's not very quick. He's very good he's a much better defender, isn't he? He knows how to play quick players.
James, pace is an issue for Spurs, isn't it? There is no. So I know the calls for Spence or whatever, and people say he's not ready, but there is absolutely no pace in that Spurs team. It's so easy to play against.
It hasn't really been since we were at Wembley, has there been?
No.
I remember having this conversation with John at Wembley years ago, back when I was in secondary school. What real pace do we have? I mean, Cess isn't the slowest, but he's not that rapid. Aside from Son, okay, maybe if Lucas plays, maybe if Kulusevski plays. But when you look in the midfield and the back line, none of them are very quick. Romero's probably the quickest of our centre-backs. Maybe.
Possibly.
But, they're all quite static defenders in the sense that they aren't going to be, they're not Sergio Ramos type. They're all very, I want to say old school centre-backs that can kind of pass. Longley's better on the ball. Davies is very much a scrappy centre-back, which is good, I think. But if teams have a fast front three and they play it over the top, or they keep pressuring someone like Sanchez, who has about as much composure as a drunk 16-year-old on the first day, we're creating trouble for ourselves, especially when he doesn't have easy options. In regards to the comment about replacing Dyer, I don't think he's the worst defender at the back. We do need another centre-back. We definitely need someone better than Sanchez probably at this point, because we can't keep playing in that system with him. But then we also need to look at the wing-back areas, the midfield. Maybe the front line. There's too many issues. Too many issues.
I get what Darren's saying here. Just to sort of hang on, mate. My missus Alexa's just come on.
all right. What I'm going to come off that. Oh no, he's back.
Yeah,
go on
sorry.
Anyway.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen. But he is right. If we are looking at pushing on, but like Lloris is obviously at a certain age as well now. I want to push on. I always look at improving and getting better. That's what I think. That's what you should do, and I think that's what they want to do at Spurs. And he's right. Like these players have done well for us. They've done all right. But if we do want to push on, and we want to challenge the top teams, we are going to have to improve on Hugo and Dyer.
Yeah.
Go on. Go say what you can say.
Hugo is getting on a bit. I was presuming in the summer we'd probably look to get in someone younger who's a long-term replacement, right? And then we look to phase him out. That sounds... it sounds logical. But football, you know what I mean? When you look at... I mean, if I'm honest, if I was playing Football Manager, right, and that game just happened in Football Manager, in my head I'm going, Sanchez, yeah, he's gone next window. I'm replacing him. Don't care. Too many stupid errors. Pissed me off. He's gone. Get someone better in to cover. Doesn't matter. Need another midfielder. Need someone who can actually progress the ball. We have very good destructive box-to-box midfielders, which is fine, but we also need someone, if we're going to play free midfielders, or if we're going to play very, very possession-based, slower build-up football, you need someone who can get the ball and pass it quite well. Break down teams. You need all that jazz. Not even like an Eriksen at that point. You just need someone who's much more composed on the ball, because that will relax the players around them.
Why weren't we looking at Gomes? How did that evade us?
I think there was a lot of talk about him in January, and we just didn't go for him, did we? And he's a great player.
Mate, before I don't want James not to go on a rant about it or whatever, but even somebody three at some point today when we're going forward, not him. That's never going to happen.
Gibbo, you dropped out for a second. Say again.
Oh. At least, sorry lads. At least he can pick a pass, because our players are finding space, but we're just not able. We just turn around and pass it backwards or sideways. There's even and Lo Celso, they're not going to. But those types of players, we need to get a player like that in the hole instead of just keep relying on Kane. Someone who can run past Kane and let Kane drop and do it. But if he needs to, this guy can do it as well. We haven't got it.
I agree. We've got four defensive midfielders who can do it. They can do an 8 role, but they're not excellent at it.
No,
and that's that we do. We obviously didn't go for Eriksen because the amount that his agent wanted, and what the wages they wanted. But we are desperately interested in that. Be it James Maddison, and everyone says where does he fit? But in the 3, he would have fitted perfectly in that midfield today.
How's this Paqueta doing it at West Ham?
I don't know. Actually, I haven't seen much of him. Quick look.
Can
we discuss this, James? Talk about
what is the point of assessing him. I think Sessegnon's very much a confidence player. We've said that before. I think if he has a bad game or two, it affects him quite a lot. Again, I don't think he's necessarily played horrifically. He's just not been getting the ball in the right places. I mean, again, like we say, if Hugo's just hitting it long to our wing backs and he's got to try chest it down, that's not his game, is it? That's really not his game. That's not helping him. What is his game? He's kind of like a beat. He's kind of like, well, he wants to get the ball and he wants to beat a player with it, doesn't he? He wants to run in behind. He wants to make those runs. And yeah, he's struggling to do that, but that's something that requires confidence. He has had good games for us. He wants to get in those inside positions, like do this run sort of thing. Yeah, that wasn't very well done. But I don't know if he hasn't got the confidence to do it, if he's struggling to do it. The thing that really stuck out to me when I went on the podcast with a Fulham fan was they think that is his game, and they think he will get to a very high level at Spurs. But I don't think the way we're playing is helping us.
That's his game then. We've got to have that number 10 that can find him, haven't we? And he make them runs. I'm not convinced. I think this is this season. it's either got to work for him or, well, obviously Perisic being his age and he's not really, but I think it's got to work for Sessegnon this year, and he's not convinced at all. Yeah, he's done all right.
I think he's done all right playing in a system, not the formation necessarily, but the way we're distributing from the back that is significantly detrimental to him. And that's the underlying problem, in all honesty.
I mean, he just doesn't have the pace or power. That's the problem. He doesn't have the pace or power, or even, I thought he had a bit of trickery, but he doesn't show it.
No.
Even Emerson shows more trickery.
Yeah, he hasn't got any trickery. He's a straight runner. Like James says, he gets behind, but with sort of like straight runs. But he hasn't really got blistering pace, has he? When you used to see like other players, you know, Bale used to run past someone and get into those areas. He can't do that. I just, for me, it some of the nothing.
Yeah,
some of the nothing. None of our wing backs is a massive issue for us. I've been saying it since the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean,
massive issue.
Is the problem the system or the players? That's a really, really good question, Edward. I think it's a mix. I also think you've got a third thing: mentality.
Yeah,
mentality is a problem. Now, interesting. If you watched Friday night's show, Steve Diver, who was at Old Trafford, said that Eric Dyer tried to push up because we were too deep, and Eric Dyer tried to push up, and every time Conte was shouting at him, "Get back," because Conte was petrified of Rashford's pace. Now, all he did was give United space to play in the midfield, which is the similar things happened today. You know, I think we did push a bit more, but there was times when we were just too deep. Callum Wilson's got the pace. Al Morin's got the pace. Joe Linton's not so quick, but then Murphy came on. Again, another quick player. And he just stretches the game. And suddenly our midfield, even though we had three of them in there, getting overrun because Guimaraes has got the time to do what he wants.
Do you get the impression, lads, that so obviously you said that, John, but do you get the impression that Conte still doesn't trust quite a few of these players? Because if you're saying like stay back, do you know what I mean? If you're saying to your centre half stay back, don't push forward because they're scared of different things, mate. You know, we're not where we need to be, then, are we?
I think that's a pace issue. We know Dyer's not the fastest. We know Davies and Longley aren't the fastest. We've got Romero's not lightning, but fairly quick. Sanchez is quick, but he should be nowhere near our first 11 because he's terrible on the ball.
Yeah,
and he's got a 50p head, as we keep saying. I have heart attack every time.
Conte just doesn't trust enough of these players. It's getting for me.
No, we definitely need to buy. We need someone who can play central and centre back. Now, obviously, Romero played that role for Atlanta, but he only did it a couple of times for us last season.
Yeah,
but he obviously wants Romero in the right centre back role. In which case, ideally, we need someone who can play central or right centre back. Just one player who can cover both. There should be a player out there who's quicker and experienced. But I know all the managers love Dyer because he's a talker on the pitch. What he brings, and he's intelligent. But there's times when he's a bit of a liability, and he lost it in the first half 2 or 3 times.
Oh, terrible, mate, terrible. But like, James, then if that's the case, mate. If we've got that, then you need to get your pace elsewhere, don't you? You need let's be able to turn them, but we can't because we've got one bloke who we can play in over the top.
Well, that's the other thing that makes very little sense to me. I remember watching a Conte interview where he was talking about tactics, and in particular, he was talking about how far apart the striker and the deepest centre-back should be. And he wants the team to be fairly compact for the most part.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to push forward, and your midfield and attacking line is pushing forward, your centre-backs have to push forward as well if you want to keep that compact. Otherwise, there's too much fucking space. Right? I get they're not quick, and I get they'll play it over the top, but you can play an offside trap. That is a thing. I'd hope that would be coachable for professional football players. And particularly when you're chasing a game, you have to take those risks, right? I don't care if we lose by one more goal if we're at least trying to win the bleeding game if you're already 2-0 down. Secondly, if he doesn't trust the players to play in a certain way, and he's very much feeling hamstringed into one system, well, then you've got to bring in players you're confident of. And I know that's easier said than done, and some people are going to be like, oh, blah, blah, Levy, whatever, don't care. You've got to have a fundamental shift in the team at that point. Because we can't go on playing like this if I want to maintain my sanity.
I know a lot of people, people say, oh, that's been coming. I don't want to get into that, But we've been a tough watch pretty much all season, haven't we? We've had our moments, but I'd say overall we're a tough watch, and we're not massively convincing, are we? Do you know what I mean?
I don't mind us being a tough watch as long as we play well. Play well. Sorry, we're winning the games, but that's 2 in a row we've lost, and we've looked like we would struggle to get anywhere near. We didn't like we were going to score second half. Really.
No, we never. We scored from a corner, mate. We put a few crosses in, which was sort of like Kane got his head on them, but we created absolutely nothing. And even in those last 5 minutes, when you think, go on, push on now, still nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
Going to change tact because we haven't got very long. A couple of things I want to talk about. Irrespective of all we've talked about and all the comments have been about the performance.
Yeah.
I want to talk about 2 things. Number one, just got this tweet. Ben Foster, recently retired goalkeeper. That Callum Wilson goal has to be disallowed. Now, we obviously discussed that. HG personally thinks it's perfectly fine.
I did to start off with, mate.
When you look at it, if that happens in midfield, if, I don't know, say Guimaraes wins the ball and clatters into Højbjerg, it's probably going to be a free kick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that Lloris was the one that touched the ball and it went ahead of him. Yes, Wilson was in front of him, but he also put his hand out. Whether it's deliberate or not, I think he's like if Wilson's not there, he just goes and kicks the ball away. It wasn't very good from Lloris. Lloris should have got rid of it. But normally, how many times have the keepers had the advantage against us recently? Fraser Forster last year on whenever it was Christmas, that one that went off his heel when Doherty didn't even touch him. And there was one in a recent game. I can't remember what it was. But I just feel that was a poor decision.
Should have been disallowed.
James?
Yeah, should have been disallowed. He's gone for the ball. The keeper's the one in control of it. And Wilson effectively runs into him, whether or not it's intentional or not. It's unfortunate for Wilson, but that is a foul and it should be disallowed.
I mean, in the comments, guys, let me know. Am I wrong? Do you think that should have been? It could have gone either way. I do agree it was quite close. I think it probably should have been. Probably should have been disallowed. And and then
John, sorry for me. I sort of on the heat of the moment because you've been watching it, and I'm thinking same old crap again. I'm sort of like, that ain't a foul. He's just messed up, and they're all obviously like that. That's not. But I agree with you. Like I sat there with Zach, and he sort of says to me, "Dad, if that happens in the middle of the park, like exactly like you said, a free kick's given." So maybe in hindsight, more often than not, they're given, aren't they, as free kicks? But I was just more infuriated about the whole situation.
I mean, well, we were pushed up because it was a ball over the top to Wilson, who we know he's a good striker ultimately. And then the second one, Lloris chips the ball out to the left, and it's too much. Cess, I think, did Cess try and head it, or did he chest it? And then Aaron just nicked in, didn't he, and ran away. And Cess has to bring him down. To bring him down. And just before Cess got substituted, he ran 30 yards to bring him down and get a booking. Yeah. He got a telling off at half time by Conte for not bringing him down.
Tell you what, mate, I bet you can't name many players that Almiron has out-muscled in his life.
It was more of a pace thing. I mean, Almiron actually did long leg, didn't he? That was scary.
He did them both, didn't he? He did them. I mean, like you said, he absolutely rinsed long leg.
Saying goal was fair. Alexander's saying, put both hands up in anticipation of the impact. It's a foul. Kerry saying, no, should have been disallowed, but it's irrelevant. We didn't show enough to win. That's a fair comment.
That's bang on. Yeah, that's a brilliant comment.
That's why we've not been talking. We've taken almost half an hour to talk about it. And the other one was the time wasting. We often get this, and Ben Foster's obviously a prime one for doing it. But Jared Gillett, the Australian, who I've watched some of the videos of him in Australia, I always thought he's quite a good ref. He is not ready for the Premier League. He did not manage that. They were time wasting. He kept going, oh, come on. And it wasn't until the 75th minute he actually booked Pope. And even then, Pope was time wasting.
Yeah.
The amount of time wasting, there should have been, and Carragher said it in commentary, said when they lost at Liverpool, it was in the 97th minute or 98th minute because so much time was added on for their time wasting. He didn't add enough time on. There was loads of subs which have to add time on. There was VAR checks on our. There was a VAR check on our goal, wasn't there?
Yeah.
There should have been 7 or 8 minutes added. We wouldn't have scored. I do admit that.
No.
But I just found the whole thing baffling and annoying.
Some horrendous officiating and control of the game in general, if I'm honest.
It wasn't good enough.
No. You could pick a fucking Sunday League ref, and I think they might have managed the game a bit better. They'd have at least had some balls.
Yeah, I agree, mate. But it's probably really shit to say, but we put ourselves in that situation, didn't we?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Then we keep doing this. This is Man United. We were poor. No reaction today, really. We like Son sort of had the bit between his teeth, but really after that, didn't do a lot, did he? It's just,
Sonny started off. He had that shot in about 90 seconds in. To be honest, from where he was 25, 30 yards out. He's not going to score from there at that angle. If he's on his right foot, I say go for the curler, but he should have passed it out to Bentancur. I think it was out in the left wing. And then he had another one from the edge of the box, which would just hit the top netting, and no problem with that. And then there was another one from about 30 yards he tried taking on. It was just he's so desperate to get that goal, and I don't mind that in a way. But we had players in good positions. Now maybe he doesn't trust the players because we're struggling. Go on, James.
He had that chance there where he ran through, right, where Kane sent him through, and he was 1-on-1 with the keeper effectively.
Yes.
He just copped it. I understand what he was trying to do, but he just messed up. Part of me thinks if he scores that goal, we probably win.
Probably, mate, yeah.
Because when we score first, we win. But we had chances early on in the game, even if they were half chances. We're generally fairly decent at scoring those. We had those half chances, and maybe if our decision-making had been a bit better. The other thing was, even in the second half, we had a lot of almost chances where one more good pass, and it's a chance, as it were. And we just kept cocking up that pass every single time. I'm just thinking, there's a player open, play it forward, pass it forward, quicker. And if you play that pass, you're in a position where you think, this is on.
Is it not the story of our season, though, anyway, James?
Yeah.
We've managed to somehow get to third by playing poorly, more through. I mean, this comment is Conte's system too rigid. I think we all know it is, and he's too stubborn to change it.
But as well, I think he's hamstrung, John. I don't think the wing backs offer enough. And our midfielders, although very good, all offer the same. They all offer the same.
I'd like to. I mean, he wasn't on the bench. Sarr is a different sort of player.
Look at who did he play in the middle of midfield, James, at Inter Milan? Barella, Brozovic, and Eriksen.
Yeah.
So you've got a mixture of everything in there, haven't you? Barella gets about. Brozovic is a brilliant pivot, isn't he? Does a brilliant job in that pivot. And Barella can do a bit of everything, and Eriksen's better going forward. But Eriksen gets about and puts his foot in, his foot in the way of like big challenges, but he gets around and closes people down. There's more fluidity to it. Our midfield, no matter how good we think they are, like I said, I'm a massive Højbjerg fan. Bentancur's been brilliant, but they offer nothing different. We do not give other teams ask enough questions of them because our midfield is literally the same.
Yeah. I mean,
the wing backs aren't good enough. Like perfectly serviceable, I've heard some of our wing backs called. That means shit.
That's not acceptable, is it?
No,
that's not acceptable.
Not if you want to challenge top four. Yeah.
He had Hakimi at Inter. I mean, when you look at his Juve team, he had Pirlo, he had Vidal. I think he had Pogba as well before he went to United. At Chelsea, even if he did play Kante and
Fabregas.
Yeah, he had Fabregas, right?
Quality, yeah.
He had that player who was really quite good on the ball and passing forward.
Yeah.
We don't
could take like in his pomp, Fabregas could control the game, couldn't he? No matter how much we dislike him for the clubs he's played for, he could get on a ball and he could control the game and he could dictate the play. Jorginho does it at times at Chelsea. And like I said, our wing backs aren't up to the required standard for that play and the midfielder offers nothing like it did at the other team. So he is stubborn and his tactics probably are hampering us. But with what he's trying to do, he is hamstrung by the players he's got.
I mean, the other thing is, let's say hypothetically we were managing the next game tactically. What can you realistically change formation-wise? I mean, can you even really go to a back four?
Go to a back four, mate. Dyer has to go in the back four, and he's crap in a back four.
So Davinson Sanchez and Longley.
Well, Romero, if he's fit, Romero's your one, isn't he?
Yeah. Maybe, Ben Davies and Romero.
No, mate.
Both of them are way
no.
too attacking. That's the thing. They both want to get forward. Romero wants to get forward. That's why he's not playing in the central role, because he wants to make those aggressive runs and he wants to go for those slightly berserk sliding challenges. I don't know that he works in a two-man back line. He didn't play at Atalanta, really. And that's the thing. If you can't move from a back three because your defense is too poor, then you are stuck in essentially two different formations. And if your wing-backs aren't good enough, one of them only kind of works. And if your midfield doesn't have players that can dominate possession and dictate the game, that one kind of it doesn't work. So Conte's gone, right, I'll play a back three because that's what he does. At least we'll be kind of more defensively solid. Yeah. And we have two very, very good attacking players, so we can kind of just absorb pressure and play it long, and they'll score enough goals until maybe my midfield develops a bit or the full-backs get better.
Do you think at the minute, and obviously when he's come in and he's had this time and we did improve, we got top four and we've been difficult to beat-ish this year, do you think there's still a case of polishing dog turds? Do you know what I mean? Making our players better than they really are.
I don't
And we need to buy better players.
We do, but
we
other
absolutely
coaches
do.
Come in and improve players, which Conte seemed to do to start off with. Eddie Howe, look, I know he signed some. Guimaraes is a top player.
Yeah.
No one else was really in for him.
Joe Linton.
Joe Linton, 40-minute striker who couldn't hit a barn door, has suddenly turned to a really good midfielder.
Yeah, like Moussa Dembele. It's the same sort of thing.
I know Chelsea have got a massive squad of good players, but you look at the job that Potter's doing already.
Yeah.
I know a lot of our guys. Caller was desperate for us to get
Potter. I wanted Potter.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people saying we don't want him. We don't want to be going down there. Graham Potter, fantastic. But I totally agree with you, mate. I think Conte can improve players, but as well, he wants quality players because he wants to win, doesn't he? Yeah. Winning.
I've got 2 points. Number one, Argentina play with a back four, James. Romero plays next to Nicolas Otamendi. Right. So,
okay.
If he plays for Argentina, that team, he should be able to play in the Premier League, you think. Anyway. But again, it depends on who his partner is. And secondly, I've just looked at this apocalypse now. The last game we scored early was when we were 1-0 down against Leicester. The last time we scored early, the first goal of the game, was the 28th of August away at Forest, when Kane scored that scuff shot in the bottom corner. It's a really good point. We don't score early enough in games, which is really worrying because we know generally if we're ahead, and there's that stat, isn't there? Conte
doesn't lose
54 times in the Premier League or something, that he's been 1-0 up at all, ahead at half time. He doesn't lose. He's drawn 4 of them or something.
But let's be honest, lads.
Need to find a way to get goals.
Son's not on it at the moment, is he? He's not. He's not up to his standard. That's not slagging him off, but he isn't. He's not playing well. He's not at the heights, hit the heights anywhere near that he did last season. So we're not getting the goals we were getting from him. And we're asking a lot of Kane to create, score, and which he's carrying the team at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's about 20 minutes in, and Carragher said he's only touched the ball 4 times, but 2 of them were through balls and get really good chances. Michael makes a good comment here. Sonny, is he maybe too comfortable? Probably because he's got no one to challenge him.
Yeah,
there's just no one else.
Well, Richarlison could have played in those positions. We could have done that a bit more, couldn't we? But Richarlison hasn't. I know he's been playing out of position, but he's in the Premier League, mate. He ain't scored.
Even when Richarlison and Kulusevski were fit, Son didn't get dropped, right?
Yeah.
Even when Son was having that. I mean, it wasn't until the Leicester game.
Kulusevski.
This game, he scored a hat-trick.
Yeah. So maybe he does need that.
Kulusevski had a couple of poor games. Kulusevski was poor at Chelsea.
And he was dropped like a bad habit, mate.
Yeah, he was,
He was, and now we're screaming from back. But I've said this before on here, anyone who's watching, under Pochettino, we're not going back there, but under Pochettino, when Son wasn't playing very well, Poch would take him out. Not drop, he'd take him out. And he'd bring him on, and he'd do something like he did against Leicester. Next game, he'd start on the bench, and he'd come on, and he'd score again, or do something good. And then Pochettino would bring him back in, and he'd go on one of these runs. But he has become more or less undroppable for us. So we can't do that anymore. Yeah. We've allowed that situation to happen.
Yeah. We need Richarlison and Kulusevski back because we just don't without the two of them. It's unfortunate we had 2 injuries to players in very similar positions. That's unlucky, really.
And do you think Lucas has been out? I think if Lucas was match fit, he'd started today, potentially.
Yeah.
Conte said he really wants to play 3-4-3, so there's a good chance on Wednesday night we go back 3-4-3, I reckon.
And the reason we have to play 3-4-3 is because we have to rely so heavily on 3 good forwards, isn't it? Because the creativity doesn't come from anywhere else. But like competition should raise performance levels at top players. For me, when you look at the really good teams, players are, they're always that you've got to be on your toes. You've got to know that you're fighting for your place. Somebody's after your shirt. But obviously, we haven't really got that at Spurs, have we?
Yeah, I mean, Jack made a good point. Son is a finisher. He really needs good passes. And if Kane's the only one playing those passes. Now, again, Kerry said about Bentancur. Bentancur was good. Unfortunately, the couple of last passes, especially one to Doherty right at the end when he overhit it, was just... I mean, Guimaraes kicked Bentancur a lot today and got away with a lot. Again, the ref just kept leaving that going. Obviously, Uruguay is Brazilian against Uruguay. Little back.
Well, he wasn't just doing it to Bentancur. He was also doing it to Son and Kane all game.
Yeah, he does a bit of everything, doesn't he, Guimaraes? He's got something about him.
Yeah, he's got
Newcastle have got some real purpose about them, haven't they? They play, and I hate to say it like Arsenal when we played them. And Man United the other night, they've got some real purpose about them. Spurs haven't. We haven't got some. We sort of went for it against Chelsea and we made it chaotic by, switching it about a bit. But there's just not enough purpose about it. Like, I know I'm probably in a very small minority. There's no way I want Conte out. We need to back him, and we'll arguably do better keeping him there. But get some players who can play on the front foot. Let's start imposing ourselves on other teams. Too often we can be passive and, like I keep saying, turgid to watch, and then we just put ourselves under pressure by slow passing at the back, and then it becomes a battle. And if you go 1-0 down, they just sit in. We're just making our own problems.
Adrian's comment saying we started brightly, dominated for 30 minutes, then we imploded. Skip, Basuma, and even Emerson were playing well, but the first goal, not the stuffing us. I don't think we dominated the first half an hour, but I was comfortable where we were at. We had a few half chances. Obviously, Sonny had that chance where he tried to, like James mentioned, he tried to chip it over Pope, but Pope managed to get a hand on it. But I thought it was quite an even game at that point. I was concerned.
It's the imploding bit. Like Conte ball requires you to be perfect at the back and perfect when you get your chances up top. Yeah. Any deviation from that, forget about it. Yeah. And mistakes are starting to creep back into our game because we'd eradicated that for a bit. But these little mistakes are starting to creep back in again. And I don't know whether that's fatigue or whether that's or complacency or just the players leveling out. I don't know.
I do think, James. Yeah, James was going to say, I've just, as you were saying that, I was going to say, Dyer, Kane, Son, Højbjerg, and Bentancur played pretty much every minute of every game. They're not getting a rest. Now, Højbjerg had to today because obviously he's picked up some sort of knock. Hopefully it's a short-term thing. It's good that Skippy got in, but Conte's not been rotating. He's been bringing players like Skip on for 2 minutes at the end of the game. What's the point of that? Given, obviously at Arsenal we brought them on for 20 minutes because he wrote the game off, and at Old Trafford he just decided to write the game off. But if these players were a bit more up to speed because they had half an hour here, half an hour there, then it would have been easier to rotate players out. But like you say, Gibbo, he's so set on the ones he trusts.
Yeah. Sorry, James, because I want James to expand on this. Can you imagine then a coach like Eddie Howe, I know, or a Graham Potter, or somebody like that? We haven't got Udogie yet, but can you imagine if they in their squad they had players like Spence and someone else, or maybe even Sessegnon? But can you imagine if they had that weight in there and that's what they needed to do? That's what they'd play them, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
they would play them. They would coach them, and they would play them in that system.
Definitely, we'd be playing again. I hate to bring up the name, but we'd be playing kind of like old Pochettino sort of stuff, which kind of what Newcastle remind me of a little bit in that sense, in their level of intensity. Players like Spence would be getting a game, even if it was 30 minutes at the end of the game. They would be getting a look in. I think the performances of Doherty and Emerson have been pretty fucking poor. Let's be honest.
Emerson's way ahead of Doherty.
Does Spence spend all of his time in training, like insulting Conte's mother or something?
I think Conte. I think Conte's trying to make his mark with Spence. I think Spence came in a little bit big time. From what I'm hearing some little rumours that Spence came in a little bit big time, and has had to be put in his box basically by Conte, and he's now beginning to have a go. The only problem is today would have been a good day. Even Wednesday, having his legs to go past players. That's the problem with neither Emerson or Doherty have got that ability. I was interested that Emerson got moved to right centre back in the second half because I called that quite early on. I think there's a potential there.
Squad player potential though, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. But ahead of Sanchez, I'd rather have him get ahead of Sanchez there at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, where do we see us wanting to go, really, lads? We want to be this year top 4, don't we? Challenging for honours. If we can make a challenge for the title or even be in the mix, fair dues, challenge for a couple of cups as well as finishing top 4. Not this, what do you want, top 4 or a cup? Both, mate. Your Chelsea's, Arsenal when they were decent, Liverpool, City, Man United, when they're in those areas, they challenge for both. They don't go, one or the other, do they? If you want to be up there, it's both. And that's where I see us wanting to be. And if we're thinking then, Emerson might do a job at right centre-back and Doherty's perfectly serviceable, that ain't what you want to be saying about players or what you need if that's where we're looking at going, is it?
I think this is a transitionary season for us, right? In many senses. Conte came in midway through last season, had to pick up the pieces of broken painting. And I think this is basically his first proper season. Yeah. And, he won the league in the first season at Chelsea, but he didn't with Inter. Again, we need another 2 windows, a January, summer.
I bet he says that tonight, mate.
We got some of the stuff we needed done. I mean, Perisic has been a bit of a disappointment, but in fairness, he didn't know that as a free. Bissouma is a good squad option, and I think he's had some decent minutes. Richarlison is finally a bloody backup striker, which we needed. Unfortunately, he's been injured. But someone like Spence can have those impacts. But it's very, very, very obvious where the other issues in the squad are that need to be changed before we can challenge in the future. Now, if there's a miraculous turn of form or something, brilliant. We're not completely out of challenging for stuff. We could still win the League Cup or something, right? And if we got 4th and a League Cup, that's our best season in, 20 years, probably?
I think, James, we're going to lose to Forest in a couple of weeks, so don't worry about the League Cup anymore.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
We need progress, don't we?
You're too cynical. We need progress, and it's kind of being made.
Whoa. I've been a Tottenham fan a long time. Of course I'm cynical. It'll grow on you more, James.
Nah, I remember the only Spurs I remember, aside from the fever dream that was Nuno and Jose, which wasn't real. That was someone put something in my drink. That wasn't real. I only remember the Pochettino days, so I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like my son, mate. My son only knows the Pochettino era and when we were flying back then. And so when so you might have had. So he remembers us. At times we weren't. We had our bad times, but we were more proactive, weren't we? We were more on the front foot. Sometimes we kept on the hold of the ball too much, or whatever, and we couldn't break teams down. But we were far more on the front foot, and that's what I want to see. And that's not going to happen under Conte, or at least not as much until he gets a play. I bet tonight I bet his interview says something about the players and injuries and not having the squad.
I don't care about us not playing, high pressing football necessarily. I just care about us actually being able to look comfortable in a game, even if that means we're just passing it around the midfield and the defense while we're 2-0 up or whatever, or we're in a position where it doesn't look like they're threatening. I'm perfectly happy with that. That's Conte's football. I get that. But when Conte won the league with Chelsea, they did not play this badly. Once he changed systems, they looked comfortable in a lot of their games. The system can work in the Premier League. Again, maybe Conte is being too stubborn with the players we have, or maybe we do need some significant recruitment. So, Levy, give me a ring. I'll sort you out.
I think, James, I think he's come in and I think he's improved them. Some of them, got some of them playing again, because the end of Jose and Nuno was bad. There'd have been lots of low confidence and lots of people sort of disillusioned with being at Spurs probably. So he's come in and fired them up, got them playing, got us top 4. But I think there's a lot of dog turd polishing going on, and I think it's flattening out a bit now. And I think some of those players have hit that level, and and people are sussed out how we play, and we haven't got the players in the certain positions, as we said earlier, and as Adrian said there as well. Midfield 4 are too similar, and I think it's like a perfect storm of shit gathering, and it's like all those things are coming together. And I wouldn't be surprised if Romero and Højbjerg are fit for Sporting, because we need to win that really to more or less qualified if we win that, haven't we?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm just looking at Twitter, and Daniel Levy is trending with quite a lot of tweets, but also Kulusevski. And lots of comments saying it's mad. 22-year-old Dejan Kulusevski is the reason we're not winning games. It is a bit scary. I don't think it's the sole reason. But
we chose to drop him for 3 games.
Yeah.
Conte chose not to play him for 3 games.
Yeah.
That he wasn't doing what he needed to.
Duty. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I mean, yeah, this is right. Sanchez, Tanganga, Doherty, and Emerson, they do need to go ultimately. Tanganga, he has 1 good game, and then 3 games. Bless him, he's only a youngster, but
we're not going to move Dyer on, but Dyer sort of needs to be made like a squad player now. You know, we've got this same players make the mistakes, seem to have this like sort of like weak mentality. We crack under the pressure away, and there's a certain group of players that have been here that whole time. You know, and if we do need to move them on to make that work better, not, you know, just because they might need it, it might work best for the club and for them to get a new challenge, then whatever. But we need to do it. And unfortunately, now, if we're going to buy, we need to buy quality, because Newcastle have beat us today. They haven't took over us in the league, but they're playing well. They've got some purpose. And more importantly for them, they got a shitload of money and they will spend it. And City were the same. And if they do the same as their mate, they will just overtake us. So we have got to go out and buy quality.
I've got a quote here for you. Antonio Conte believes the squad isn't exactly where he wants it, but it will steadily improve. When you're going to have every game 3 games, you need to have a deep and a strong squad, which he clearly thinks we don't have.
Yeah.
Which we don't.
No. It is interesting. I'm guessing Sarr must be injured because Harvey White was on the bench today. And there's no way Harvey White's coming on, even though he did quite well in pre-season, didn't he? Was it up at Rangers? Yeah. Was that when you were at that game?
No, he didn't play in that one, did he? He didn't come
on. Was it in South Korea he came on? I can't
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going to say that, isn't he? And I think the more it's not working, that's what it will come down to.
When he was at Adrian's here, play it from the back quickly. You need forward killer passes. You need ballers at the back. And that's what we need. Yeah. If we have there, we keep the ball, we move the ball up quickly. And that's what City and Liverpool aren't aggressive. That's how they progress. And they also have the ability to ping a long ball up to, you know, whoever, City back in the day, Guerrero, because it gives you a different option. Suddenly teams can't press. They have to drop deep, which is what we've been doing to, like what we did to United.
We don't have the players, City, obviously, so we can't do that. But when I watch them pinging it around, you know, and you think to yourself, God, look at that. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes I've seen us score a goal under Conte and you watch and you go, that's football. We've got some football there now. That's brilliant. But too often in the past few years, like I said the other day, I've got to get used to this Conte board and controlling it or whatever. He's one of the top coaches in the world. But too often in recent years, I'm just going through the motions watching Spurs play. Today, said to you earlier, didn't I, John, that I wasn't not looking forward to this game because I thought we'd lose, because I didn't actually think we'd lose. But I wasn't looking forward to watching it. You know, in Spurs, apart from my kids and my family, Spurs is my life. You know, that's my outlet. That's what I do. And it's too often in the last few years, it's just been like, and today I was like, I've got to go and watch that this afternoon. I know you ain't got to, but you do it. That's what you do because you love them. But it is.
There are about 60 of you watching, only 23 likes. Please, can you click the like button? Really
give us a like. Come on, we've had to come on here.
Retro top that Gibbo's wearing.
We've had to come on here after watching that.
So
to dissect it. Give us a few likes.
Franco's probably going to do a pod tomorrow. I think he was struggling to get one today. Then tomorrow night, Brendan will be here tomorrow night with Becky, Craig, and I can't remember who the 4th person is. Maybe Seb. Seb hasn't got back to me. He hasn't confirmed, but there'll be a 4th person. Then Wednesday, James will be here with HG doing the instant reaction for the sporting game. And then I can't remember who's it. Call will be here Friday. Myself or Call will be here Friday. I need to go in because my wife's messaging me. She needs help with the kids' bedtime.
Have fun.
So I'm not going to say thanks for joining me on this depressing evening, Gibbo.
Mate, not a problem. Like my wife said to me towards the end, she's like, go on upstairs. It'll be good for you. Get it off your chest.
It's like therapy, isn't it?
I've got a little bit of it off my chest, but thanks to everyone who's, started viewing our instant reaction shows. We do enjoy them. I may even get on my phone to join James and HG from Greece on Wednesday night. But if it's as bad as that, I fucking won't be. So
You'll be too busy drunk in the bar. James, thanks for joining it. And your internet held up in the halls today.
Yeah, just about. I'm very impressed. Well done, University Halls internet. Good job.
I have to say, those curtains are very. I've seen those curtains in university halls before. It's quite. They're obviously just universal at every hall.
No. I've been in other halls. They don't have the same curtains. These are hideous, though.
Right.
I think they're tricking me. They're very 70s or 90s. They're old. I don't like them. They don't block out light either. So 6 a.m. Hello, I'm awake now. It's bright. Cool.
Nice.
Anyway, thanks for having me on. Lovely to be
For
here.
that, I will say, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you fucking Spurs.
come on, you Spurs.